Awesome. Thank you, Brendan. And if you are making these mistakes, this is a safe place. No worries, no judgment. We can talk through it. We will talk about the FERPA violation you're probably making, the 2-minute fix. That's what we'll cover in this last of these sessions of the AI Summit. I am Kelly Sinacola, Vice President of Solution Engineering and Integrations. If I don't know you, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. We can connect on all sorts of things AI, Element 451 or other nerd stuff like pivot tables, as you've seen in the chat. So every day, well-intentioned staff members use AI to save time. We draft emails, we write summaries, we do what Aaron was showing. We now are going to be doing what Daniela does all the time. But what if I told you that some of those actions are technically actually FERPA violations? Nothing shared today, I assure you. We're going to talk about where AI meets FERPA and how a 2-minute mindset shift can keep you compliant and confident. Because who doesn't want to end the day with FERPA, right? So exciting. So, first and foremost, let's start with what is FERPA? Higher education, we love an acronym, right? So, FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. This was passed in 1974, so it may be an older act than some of us in the room. It's one of the cornerstone privacy laws in education, and it is designed to protect education records, and that's across the education space. And it's anything that can be identify a student from grades, transcripts, SSN, student ID numbers, to even emails and notes housed within your CRM system. Now, the heart of FERPA is really about control. So we want to make sure that students and their families have rights over how their data is accessed, shared, and corrected. So it places that same responsibility on the institution to safeguard that data and only disclose it under very specific legal circumstances. Now, the challenge here is that FERPA is written for a world of filing cabinets and mainframes. So it's when computers were taking up rooms and we had big server rooms devoted to them. It's not for today's cloud platforms and our AI-driven systems that we've talked about over the past 2 days. This law assumes a single institution holds all of the data in a box on campus. But now we're in a world where we have dozens of integrated tools, different SaaS vendors that we're interacting with, and algorithms that touch on this data daily. So the real question isn't just what does FERPA say? It's how do we apply its intent in a world where AI can see, learn from, and actually take action on some student data. So that's where modern compliance meets modern technology and where most institutions start to struggle. But again, nobody here, nobody in this room. So, where things start to get interesting is AI by itself doesn't violate FERPA. No, there's actually no part of the law that says thou shalt not AI, thou shalt not chat GPT. There's none of the law that says those pieces. FERPA violations occur when control or access to student data leaves the institution's governance boundary. So the problem here isn't the technology, it's what happens to data when we choose to use it. The moment any student identifiable data is shared with a system or shared with a vendor that the institution doesn't directly oversee, even unintentionally, you've crossed over into risky territory. So that's when the key question becomes, who is the school official? So, what is a school official, Kelly? Well, I'm going to tell you. Under FERPA, a school official includes not only your staff, but also any third parties performing an institutional service, as long as the institution maintains direct control over how they choose to use that data. So, a learning management system, a CRM, under a contract with an institution can act as a school official. But a public AI model, like a ChatGPT or a Gemini, it doesn't meet that definition. It's not under your institution's control. You can't audit or restrict its data use. I can't call up ChatGPT and ask why my daughter generated fan fiction pictures over the book she was reading. So now let's look at the most common FERPA mistake we're all probably making. And it happens, as always in higher ed, with the best intentions. So picture this, an advisor or staff member opens up ChatGPT, opens up Gemini, and types, write a letter for Brendan Hinkle about their GPA appeal. That sounds harmless, right? Brendan would never do anything. The person on the desk is just trying to save time, but the second they hit enter, that student's personally identifiable information leaves your institution's control. So, public AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini process that input on external servers, again, outside of the institution's control. It's servers that the institution doesn't manage, they can't audit, they can't guarantee that the data will be deleted. Even if the tool says it doesn't train on user data anymore, logs and retention policies still exist. They still may be keeping backups of that data. And that's where the FERPA risk lives. So in FERPA terms, that's an unauthorized disclosure of a student record. This wasn't because of bad intent. There wasn't any reason. I wasn't trying to out Brendan Hinkle's bad grades, but it was because of where the data went, which was outside of the scope of control. So now that we've seen where AI can go wrong, let's look at where it can actually be done right. Now, thinking back to this prompt that we just came from, a really simple change to that prompt is write a sample letter for a student about a grade appeal, right? That keeps the student information that is personally identifiable out of it. And that's where you can use ChatGPT really effectively just to write a sample letter that does not violate FERPA. So that's a really simple change there. But FERPA absolutely allows for AI to use, for AI use when that AI operates inside your institution's governance boundary. So if you think about tools like Microsoft Copilot, Canvas Insights, or even Element 451, these aren't public models. They are institution-controlled environments where access is limited to a permission group. Data doesn't leave your systems because you own that cloud system, and vendors act as school officials under FERPA. So the key concept here is that school official exception. If you are a FERPA official on campus, make sure that you've read up on the school official exception. That means that a third-party vendor can process students' data on your behalf as long as they meet these three criteria. Number one, they perform a service the institution would otherwise handle itself. Number two, the institution maintains direct control over how they use the data. And number three, the data is only used for authorized educational purposes. When those boxes are checked, and when vendors back it up with data protection agreements, with SOC 2 reports, with clear documentation that shows how that data is governed, AI tools can safely analyze, recommend, and even personalize training experiences without violating FERPA. So the message here is AI isn't the enemy, which, I mean, that's a natural message when you're running an AI summit, right? But AI isn't the enemy, unmanaged AI is. When you use AI that's built into systems your institution controls, FERPA isn't a blocker, it's already built into the design. So it's the actual intent of that legislation. Now, we have AI that acts, not just assists, too, right? Like Element 451's Bolt agent automating communications, automating phone calls out now. So the FERPA question becomes, can you audit what it did and control what data it used? So in this case, transparency and logging make this future FERPA safe for any acts that come after FERPA, after 1974. So ask these two questions before using AI. This is the 2-minute fix. This is what we're here for. Everything we've talked about, all the complexity of FERPA and AI, really diluted down to these two questions. Ask them every time before you use an AI tool with student data. Write them on a post-it note, put it on your monitor. Don't put your password on that post-it note. Please don't do that. But write these two questions down. First, who controls the data after I hit enter? That's not a yes or no. It's about who's in charge. If the answer is OpenAI, if the answer is Google, or if the answer is my favorite, somewhere on the internet, you've just handed over control. But if the answer is my institution, meaning the data stays in systems that are governed, contracted, and auditable, then you're on solid ground, at least when it comes to FERPA. The key test is, does the data remain inside the institution's privacy boundary? Now, number two. Can my institution audit, delete, or restrict it? This one is a yes or no question. FERPA is about more than just privacy, right? It's about control and accountability. If you can't see what the AI did with the data, if you can't delete it, if you can't limit who accesses it, that's a compliance gap, no matter how good the intentions are. So when you combine these two, um, who controls the data? Can I audit, delete, or restrict it? Then you can say that you're operating within a FERPA safe zone. Anything else, that's a red flag. So this 2-minute habit, stopping to ask these questions, is the simplest, the fastest way to stay compliant and build a culture of responsibility, of build a culture of responsible AI use on campus. Write it on a post-it note, have it printed out for all your friends, laminate it, make sure that everybody is following these two questions. So let's wrap all of this up by zooming out for a second. Everything we've covered, FERPA, AI tools, data control, oversight, it all points to one big idea. Compliance isn't about restriction, it's about design. So FERPA was never meant to block innovation in 1974. The act wasn't written to say, thou shalt not AI. It was created to build trust between students, institutions, and their families, and the systems that hold their data. And as AI evolves from a tool that helps to an assistant that collaborates to an actor that automates, FERPA gives us the framework to keep that trust intact. When you bake compliance into your AI design, when you start with transparency, consent, and auditability, you don't actually slow innovation down. You make it stronger. You create systems that are explainable, accountable, and safe to scale. So think of it like this: AI without compliance is fast, but fragile. AI with compliance is trusted, and that's what lasts. And that's where every institution, every vendor, every policymaker has a shared role. Compliance isn't one department's job, it's everyone's design principle. Now, we've only scratched the surface today. We've only scratched the surface over these last 2 days. AI is evolving fast, and so are the ways we can use it to make learning, communication, and operations smarter and more personal. So the key takeaway is responsible AI use isn't about fear or restriction, it's about empowerment through understanding. And that's exactly what our AI Learning Center is created for. It's your go-to hub for short guides, video tutorials, and real examples of how to use AI thoughtfully across campus. Whether you're writing better content like Erin demonstrated, improving your workflows like Daniela demonstrated, or ensuring responsible data use. If you're ready to keep the momentum going, go ahead, scan that QR code, visit the link on your screen, keep
Do
learning,
it.
keep
I dare you.
experimenting, and I'm sure, Brendan probably has it all over his LinkedIn anyway, but let's make
All
sure we're
over.
building an AI future that's innovative, ethical, and transparent. And I'm going to hand it back to Brendan